In just 47 seconds, $4.2 billion vanished into shadow accounts. Ursula von der Leyen didn't wait for questions. She didn't wait for rebuttals. She simply gathered her papers, her face pale and unreadable, and walked out. The cameras caught it all. The European Parliament in Strasbourg witnessed a scene unprecedented in its 70-year history. What could force the most powerful woman in Europe to flee her own fortress? The session began at exactly 10:12 a.m. as a routine budget review for the 2026 framework. Viktor Orban, representing the Hungarian presidency, didn't bring prepared remarks. He brought a black dossier marked "Financial Irregularities Classified." This wasn't theater. This was a calculated execution. Orban's voice cut through the chamber with surgical precision. He cited Article 325 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, the clause regarding fraud against the Union's financial interests. Then he dropped the nuclear option. A leaked internal memo from the Budgetary Control Committee, dated September 14, 2025. The document wasn't public record. It detailed wire transfer ID EUX99LUX, showing $4.2 billion allocated for Eastern European energy infrastructure had been rerouted through a Delaware-based consultancy firm with operational branches in Luxembourg. Television cameras captured every facial expression in the chamber: the visible shock of German MEPs, the satisfied smirks of AfD representatives, the nervous fidgeting of Green Party officials who had championed the Energy Transition Fund. "Madam President," Orban said, looking directly at von der Leyen, "can you explain to this House where the Emergency Energy Transition Fund actually went?" The hall went dead silent. Every camera zoomed in. Von der Leyen's hands gripped the podium. Her usual composed demeanor cracked for exactly 3 seconds before she attempted damage control. But Orban wasn't finished. He revealed the consultancy firm, Greenstrat Global, listed on its advisory board, a name that froze the blood of every EPP member present. The connection was devastating. The Hungarian Prime Minister was accusing the President of the European Commission of channeling EU taxpayer money into a private entity linked to her own circle, disguised as green energy subsidies. Then came the methodical destruction. Orban opened a second folder marked Transaction History, Q3 2025, bank routing codes from Deutsche Bank Luxembourg to Cayman Islands shell companies, digital signatures matching von der Leyen's authorization patterns, email timestamps showing coordination between Brussels and Greenstrat executives during official EU business hours. Each piece of evidence landed like a precision strike, dismantling her defense before she could mount one. The reaction was visceral. The right-wing Patriots for Europe bloc immediately began pounding their desks, demanding a suspension of proceedings. The Greens and Liberals, usually von der Leyen's staunchest defenders, sat paralyzed. Not a single MEP rose to defend her. When the moderator turned the microphone to von der Leyen for rebuttal, the cameras captured everything. Her voice wavered as she referenced procedural irregularities before stopping mid-sentence. She realized the trap. To deny the document would be perjury, to acknowledge it would be political suicide. That's when protocol shattered completely. Von der Leyen's security detail moved closer. Instead of addressing the $4.2 billion question, she signaled to her chief of staff. They gathered files with trembling hands. The microphone remained open, catching whispered fragments. "Not here. Get me out." As she walked toward the exit, opposition benches erupted. "Resign! Resign!" echoed through the Strasbourg chamber like thunder. Even the simultaneous translators paused, uncertain whether to broadcast the chaos. Her final glance backward revealed pure panic, the look of someone who knew the game was over. But this was only file number 1. Orban claimed possession of 15 terabytes of encrypted data from a whistleblower inside the Berlaymont building. He mentioned specific dates regarding secret negotiations with Kiev, unapproved weapons contracts signed without parliamentary oversight, and most damaging of all, evidence of systematic budget manipulation spanning 3 fiscal years. The whistleblower, identified only as Source Omega in intelligence circles, reportedly held a senior position in the Commission's Budget Directorate General. According to leaked fragments, this individual had been documenting irregularities for 18 months, waiting for the right moment to strike. The timing wasn't coincidental. Source Omega chose Orban specifically because Hungary's rotating presidency provided legal cover for introducing classified materials into parliamentary record. The strategy was brilliant: transform criminal evidence into legitimate legislative inquiry. The European Public Prosecutor's Office received a copy of Orban's dossier within hours. Chief Prosecutor Laura Codruta-Kovesi's office confirmed they were reviewing materials of significant interest. If a formal investigation opens, von der Leyen loses parliamentary immunity. This transforms from political theater to criminal inquiry overnight. Legal experts noted the precision of Orban's timing. Presenting evidence during Hungary's EU presidency meant automatic legal standing for any subsequent prosecution. The Hungarian Prime Minister had effectively weaponized European law against its own leadership structure. Market reaction was immediate and brutal. The euro dropped 0.8% against the dollar within minutes of the news breaking. Frankfurt's DAX plummeted 3.2% as investors realized Europe's leadership was potentially compromised. German automotive stocks, already vulnerable to trade tensions, shed billions in market value. The financial contagion spread to Paris and Milan before American markets even opened. Financial analysts immediately drew parallels to previous scandals that haunted von der Leyen's tenure. The Pfizer vaccine deal text messages that mysteriously vanished. The McKinsey consulting contracts worth $337 million that somehow bypassed competitive bidding. The pattern emerged clearly: a technocrat who operated in gray zones, leveraging institutional complexity to avoid direct accountability. This time, however, Orban possessed paper trails that couldn't be deleted or classified. The silence from Brussels has been deafening. Hours passed without official response from the European Commission. No press release, no denial, no explanation. In high-stakes politics, silence isn't golden. It's confirmation. If Orban's documents were fabricated, we would have seen furious rebuttals within minutes. Instead, we're witnessing a leadership vacuum at the worst possible moment. This transcends one individual or one bank account. If allegations of $4.2 billion in diverted funds prove accurate, the European Union's foundation cracks immediately. How can member states like Germany, France, or Italy justify austerity measures and tax increases when Brussels leadership potentially siphons funds into private offshore networks? The constitutional crisis threatens everything: aid to Ukraine, the Green Deal, the entire legislative machinery of Europe. Emergency calls between Emmanuel Macron and Olaf Scholz were reportedly chaotic and accusatory. Macron pushed for an immediate European army initiative, a desperate attempt to project strength. But without transparent leadership, military experts agree Europe remains strategically vulnerable. The timing couldn't be worse. With American policy shifts under Trump's second term, European unity was already fracturing. This scandal may deliver the final blow. Italian PM Giorgia Meloni's office issued a terse statement demanding full transparency from all EU institutions. Even von der Leyen's closest allies were distancing themselves as emergency damage control meetings convened across European capitals. The media blackout reveals institutional panic. Mainstream outlets buried the story beneath weather reports and local sports. They understand the implications. This isn't just about von der Leyen's political survival. This represents validation of populist critics who claimed Brussels operated as an unaccountable technocracy. If proven true, it vindicates years of skepticism from Budapest to Rome to Warsaw. Social media told a different story. Within 30 minutes, von der Leyen Gate trended across 12 European languages. TikTok videos of her parliamentary exit accumulated millions of views, many overlaid with dramatic music and slow-motion effects. Twitter exploded with amateur financial analysts dissecting the Delaware connection. Even establishment politicians began distancing themselves. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire posted a carefully worded statement about transparency in all European institutions. The digital dam had burst while traditional media maintained radio silence. Viktor Orban smiled as von der Leyen retreated. He'd achieved something remarkable, forcing the European establishment to confront its own contradictions in real time. Whether viewed as a destructive force or a necessary disruptor, Orban exposed the vulnerability of institutions that claimed moral authority while potentially engaging in the very corruption they condemned. The 30-day investigation timeline isn't negotiable. European citizens deserve answers about where their tax contributions actually flow. The questions multiply exponentially. Who authorized these transfers? How many other shadow accounts exist? Which other officials knew about the Delaware connection? The Greenstrat Global Advisory Board demands immediate scrutiny. Von der Leyen faces an impossible choice. Full transparency risks criminal exposure, while continued silence guarantees political extinction. The woman who once embodied European technocratic competence now symbolizes institutional decay. Her departure from that chamber wasn't just a strategic retreat. It was a visual metaphor for the European project itself, powerful in theory, fragile under pressure, and potentially compromised beyond repair. This moment will define Europe's next decade. If Brussels can't clean its own house, member states will question every directive, every regulation, every fiscal demand. The populist wave that brought Trump back to power and strengthened Orban's position just gained its most powerful ammunition yet. The European Union built its legitimacy on being better than corrupt national governments. That legitimacy died in Strasbourg when von der Leyen walked out rather than face the truth. The ultimate question remains unanswered. Was this the moment European democracy began its recovery or witnessed its final collapse? Only the next 30 days will tell.